phones on silent.
Well, yeah, thank you. Good morning. It's Wednesday, June 3rd, 2026. We are here for the Franklin County Commissioners' weekly meeting. I will now call the meeting to order and ask that you join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Adoption of current agenda. Is there any additions or corrections?
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval of the agenda in front of us.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would like to add one item to the agenda for our county administrator to negotiate any contracts necessary for the continued operation of Franklin County Juvenile Court and present those to the board at the next available meeting.
Clarification, that to the consent agenda.
Yes.
I'd agree to that amendment.
Do you want it as a discussion item?
Right, I think the board could just do a motion and pass it, and then it would just be done.
Okay. Okay. I'll second the agenda then.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Public comment. Is there anyone in the room for public comment? If so, please come forward, state your name, and you have 3 minutes.
Good morning. Marcy Torres from Franklin County. I wanted to address a few things today. I was court watching this week, and we officially this week we were able to go before Commissioner Holt and give him the evidence of this dad that was being falsely accused of being a drug addict and, you know, being abusive, and it was a negative test. So we were able to basically prove that Mason Pickett once again has been using these tactics for many, many years. I have been receiving calls from people 6 years without seeing their kids over false allegations of abuse. I also received a call from a mom that had also lost her kids due to false allegations of abuse, where Mason Pickett was representing the other party. And a 5-year-old girl ended up calling the police department and telling them she was going to commit suicide. And that's how she was able to get her kids back. So this is happening so often, and something needs to happen. This is not okay. I was able to walk into a courtroom a little bit over a month ago and noticed this dad was in distress and didn't understand what was happening because I've been through it for 15 years. I knew what was going on, and I reached out to him. I reviewed his declaration, and his declaration seems to be the same declaration that Mason Pickett has filed time after time after time. It's almost like they've figured out the template of what works to get the judges to sign it, so then they are framing people in a certain way to get the rights, their parental rights, taken away. Do we understand what kind of an issue this is and how much of a liability these judges are opening us up to? And this is not a lawsuit with so many parents that have come forward with the same issue. The taxpayers are going to be the ones responsible for that, not the judges. Interestingly enough, I also have noticed that every judge now is disclosing conflicts of interest, something that wasn't happening before. Cases that should have never been heard in this courtroom are being moved to Pullman or Yakima or a different county. This should have been happening a long time ago. The fact that they were even hearing these cases here And they've dragged so many families, hundreds of dollars in attorney costs. So what we're doing is working. I would love the opportunity to be able to put some brochures or something. I'm doing this because I'm passionate and I want to help families. The dad that was able to prove that he was falsely being accused, I wish you guys would have been there to see Mason Pickett's face. I think he fixed his tie probably like 5 times. He was so nervous that he knows that we're watching and we're looking into every single one of his cases. So thank you.
Anyone else in the room for public comment?
Good morning, gentlemen. When the people speak, things do change. And I want to remind you that the Constitution is a contract between the people and their government. And what they're suffering, if fully accurate, which I believe there's some things that need to be looked at, is a misuse of government. Right now, we have 2 initiatives that are strengthening communication between parents and schools, protecting fairness in girls' sports that need to be signed yes when it comes out on the general election if people want to retain their rights. But do you understand that parental rights are federal? And that filters down to every sovereign, which is state and county. The county's closest to the government. You are in contract with every other county to uphold that Constitution by oath. When that oath is violated, which Nick Brown did, I don't care if he has 800 attorneys, I really don't. He violated the separation of powers by counseling Jamie Peterson on how to get around, quote unquote, the constitutional requirements for a 2/3 majority in the House and the Senate to put an income tax that people know they don't deserve. Now it's going out to an initiative. We're having to gather signatures when we have another path. And that is to call Article 44, RCW 44.16. You haven't heard about it because people don't like accountability. We don't. We all know that we've done something wrong at some point. I'm telling you I'm here today because I forgave a lot of wrongs. A lot. And I really, truly want to see my county and this state turned around, and it is within your grasp, and this is the window. If you will go and have a legislative investigative inquiry where those who have done the deed are investigated by those in their own tribunal in the legislature, and it's going to look very partisan. It is not. It's constitutional. Mr. Brown should be in a process of being removed from office right now. My first line of defense is my local government, which is my county commissioners, to call other counties into the same thing, just like the sheriffs have done. You had 4 counties and prosecutors and sheriffs and commissioners come together. I'm sure they had their differences. I know that's going on. I read it all. But when you come together on the constitutional grounds, you're standing for us. I'm not trying to be dramatic. It pulls you together. It pulls us together. I went to a meeting last night in Connell. It was beautiful. I thank Rocky for attending. Community really does matter, and you were treated with respect. There was respect in that room. It was wonderful. That's what we need, and we need you to start working with the other counties to hold our legislature accountable. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. LaWanda Hatch, Franklin County, and I'm here to redress my grievances with my only government that I have. Last October, our governor signed an executive order that directs and sets the table for the Native Americans to have oversight over our state agencies. The county seat is a state agency. And so what does this have to do with you? When we had our past assessor resign, he came to the Franklin County Republicans and asked us to be one of the candidates that we set forward for the commissioners. And he promised at that time he would stop the overassessment of our property values. And he doubled down on it. I have a neighbor who reached out to me and told me that he had privately had his property assessed, and it was much less than what our county assessor assessed. And so he brought it to the Board of Equalization, who ruled in his favor. And our assessor then takes it and appeals to the state. Now, I thought that was just a one-off, but I've learned recently that that's been done hundreds of times. So much so that our assessor received an award from our illustrious governor, Bob Ferguson. So I am bringing this to just forewarn that I believe, when I look and add all the numbers together, that this is just a setting the table to confiscate farms and to hand them over to the tribes. And that is unconstitutional, but that doesn't stop people that plan and scheme and have strategy. And unfortunately, our legislature is not well-versed in certain particulars. So I know that's not anything that our commissioners have control over, but I just want to bring that to everyone's attention so that we can be aware of the game being played. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment?
Andy Revis, Franklin County. Oh, I'm going to just keep talking about the family court situation. I'm going to read to you something I found last week. It says, for years, families have been screaming that children were being unnecessarily removed, shuffled through unstable placements, over-medicated, alienated from parents, and lost in a bureaucracy fueled by federal money. The response was always silence. Now the same government agency, the Administration for Children and Families, is publicly acknowledging that children inside that very system are vulnerable to trafficking and exploitation. That should terrify every American. Nobody is saying that children should remain in dangerous homes. Real abuse exists. Real addiction exists. Real neglect exists. But when the government creates a massive pipeline of vulnerable children, strips them from families without timely due process, moves them through contractors and placements, and then acts shocked that exploitation happens inside the system they built, people have a right to ask questions. And that's why we're here. We're asking questions. We're exposing this stuff because something needs to happen. I would invite any of you guys to spend a day in family court. Your minds will be blown. And I've had to repent myself because I thought, if somebody's children got taken, they must have been bad parents. After spending 6 years going through that family court, I learned a lot. And in 15 minutes, a commissioner, not a county commissioner, the commissioner in a courtroom can take a child and tell them that they should never see their parents ever again. And for 6 years, what that statement was upheld by judge after judge after commissioner. And when I started looking into some of this stuff, the millions and billions of dollars that are being funneled down to the states, I just read this morning that even the federal government reimburses states for I read that it's in Texas, it's 66 cents on every dollar of child support the state gets back from the federal government. So why wouldn't these judges want to maximize the child support by taking children from parents that love them? It's a pipeline. And I said last week, 88% of the children that are trafficked in the United States of America come from CPS. I have to keep going later.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment?
Good morning, I'm Melissa Good, and I'm a member of this community, and I'd like to start by just thanking you all for actually listening and caring and giving this as a platform for all of us, because I know it stinks for you guys. It has to really be atrocious to sit there where you are and have to listen to these gut-wrenching, disgusting, awful stories, but you do it. And you show up and you allow it and you don't have a bad attitude about it, so just thank you for that. I'm sure I speak on behalf of everyone here that it's appreciated. So I will continue on with talking about a situation with the grooming of my daughter and how all of that transpired. As I mentioned last week, I discovered this grooming teacher's social media account due to my daughter coming home and telling me that everyone at school was talking about what was found, which was young minor girls overtly sexualizing themselves on these accounts, and also young minor girls that are having detail shots of them taken in, let's just say, really vulnerable positions as far as their anatomy as they are performing their sports, whether that be diving in a swimsuit or volleyball players. One of the most disturbing ones is all these shots on this one account that someone took of a coach stretching out a young minor volleyball player. This same teacher is coaching track this year. Kept score for the girls' volleyball last year. Are these things coincidental? How would you feel? How would anyone feel? Do you want that guy coaching your daughter? Probably not. So I decided to go digging further. I thought, well, what else can I find on him on social media? I found this, or actually I didn't find it, it was brought to me, but I did find some more things on what used to be Twitter, is now X. He made statements with his name and his photo attached to this account. There's no doubt that it is his. At real Donald Trump, they should just kick you off, then you could save more time for golfing, the saddest president ever. You are literally dumb as shit. You strike like lightning. Thunder is just sound, kind of like your blustery nonsense. You're such a dumbass. Shut down the economy and tell us the governor's got to figure this out. Then trot out your bizarre son-in-law to ramble nonsense. These are all things that he's saying to the president. You are a dumb MFer. And then he spells stupid, S-T-O-O-P-E-D, question mark, rhymes with stupid, spelled correctly. You feeling that right now, real Donald Trump, aren't you? You are absolutely the worst president ever. That's the example being set for our kids.
Is that time for one more? It's been a minute since I've been here. I'm Marie Reddad. I'm a citizen for the Tri-Cities. You have to understand that the reason that we keep coming back is because it is getting attention. It is getting the impact that we need. You want this on the things that matter to you, and you've presented those, the things that have to do with the LRAs and things like that, and we're happy to go forward and stop that kind of stuff as well and bring as much attention to it as possible. And we're going to continue to do it. We've teamed up with a lot of people. We are getting a lot of attention, and it is good news. There has been changes that have been very positive as a result. So we have judges that are now recusing themselves. That wouldn't have happened without Ms. Torres actually having the receipts for that. We're not saying stuff that's not true. There's no libel in this. There's no slander in this. This is facts that are provable. The questions that we're presenting to you all is like, hey, you may not have the power that you want to use, but you do have some authority to look into things and ask questions, and that's what we've been asking all along. The highlighting that we're doing, Ms. Good's doing the same thing. You have to understand the whole country is making a movement. Washington State, you've had to have seen, you've got judges getting arrested, you've got attorneys being held accountable, you've got, she's a school superintendent, or what was she, principal, whatever she was, she's arrested. Okay, these things are because people are speaking out against things that have been happening for too long, and they've been managing to get away with it because no one has spoke up against it. And that's what they say, the same old, I don't want to call it a cliche because I actually believe it's true, but good men do nothing, evil proceeds. And we're doing stuff. The entire community is doing things, and we're getting the attention that it deserves. And it's not something that we're taking lightly. We don't want you to take it lightly. We want it to matter to you. As I said from the very first day I was here, the stuff that matters to you, you're asking us, telling us about. You're going on your regular business. We go to the Benton County meetings. They're talking about their regular business. We're listening to all of that. Okay? The stuff that matters is what's getting the attention, and we're going to continue to get that attention and desire as much interaction as possible so that we can work together. Thank you.
Anyone else in the room for public comment? Is there anyone on the phone? Approval of a consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval of the consent agenda items 1 through 3 as presented.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, the motion passes unanimously. Regular business.
There's none listed, Mr. Chairman, but this time I'd like to make a motion to authorize our county administrator to recognize any contracts necessary for the continued operation of Franklin County Juvenile Court and present those to the board at the next available meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Commissioner Administrator updates. Mr. Danzel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I am going to be pretty light this week on my update because there's a lot of correspondence. However, I'd say that I met with each of the commissioners individually to go over the agenda and ongoing issues. Spoke with various elected officials, department heads, spoke with Council Briggs multiple times. But again, I'm going to reserve my comments because there's quite a bit of late arriving incoming correspondence. So that'll be my report for this week. Please let me know if there's anything you want me to be working on.
Thank you. Commissioner Baumann.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Several things here in my report. Following the commissioners' meeting last week, it was requested of me that I meet with the Benton Franklin Health District about a discussion on the relationship between this board and the Benton Franklin Health District. Had a pretty robust conversation there, and they provided some statistics and information that I only have one copy, but I'd be happy to provide it to you if you'd like to see it. And about what their perspective would be on if a split were to happen between the Benton and Franklin counties as far as the health district is concerned. They feel like that there would be some pretty severe impacts on there, and so I believe that there's a conversation underway about the service to the people of Franklin County, and that conversation, I believe, can be fruitful. Also went to a Tri-City Development Council board meeting, Benton Franklin Council of Governments meeting with some of the leadership there. Also went to Pasco City Council meeting. I attended that meeting virtually, and at that meeting, the Pasco City Council, on a vote of 5-2, passed a tax. I was extraordinarily disappointed that that tax was passed. It was it is legal for them to, in a councilmatic fashion, to pass that tax. They did it for the purpose of road maintenance. The mayor, Charles Grimm, and Councilman Leo Perales was the two no votes on that, and I appreciated both of their what they had to say. They said while the maintenance is certainly a concern, they said that they would like it to go before the people. The other 5 council members chose to pass that tax, and so now it's my understanding that tax will go into effect on January 1st of the next year. Also had a great meeting with our Planning, Building, and Economic Development Department about the comp plan. Just want to say for Mr. McCart and your staff, thank you. thank you for the hard work that you're doing and the level that you're going to do that hard work. Would encourage my fellow commissioners to, this is the point where that they're needing our input regularly. Would encourage you to be involved there and let them know kind of what you would like to see as far as the steering of that. Had a meeting with our administrator about the agenda and just other issues around the county. And then just a couple of comments and a question for our legal counsel. Working on some ideas for road maintenance. We've gone 2 years now without shifting any money out of the road maintenance and preservation and the Public Works Department. And so I want to thank you, both of my fellow commissioners, for not shifting those funds. I think it's very important. We need to do maintenance on our roads that has been neglected for years. And so I'm working on some ideas on ways that we might bolster that and make that more robust. And believe that we have ways that we can do that without being more expensive. One of those ways is by crushing rock, and I believe we can go and crush rock and be able to provide the number one product that we need for maintenance and preservation on our roads at a significantly reduced price. And so working on that. And then the question that I would have for our legal counsel, and you don't need to answer this today if you don't want, but the question that I wrote down here based on some comments that we had earlier is, if a judge does not recuse themselves and it is found out that they did not recuse themselves and it's reported and there are consequences, what would those consequences be? So there's multiple reasons. It's a little bit of a setup question, not intentional, just there's some background to that, and so that's the genesis of my question.
And I know, good morning, Commissioners, by the way. I don't know any of the background of that question. Of course, that could impact what the response is, but I believe any orders, and I'd have to double check this, but any orders issued by the judge would still be valid. A judge ultimately is the one that makes the decision on whether recusal is appropriate. There could be consequences against the judge personally, but again, I would need more facts.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. Well, there's some of the information, we've heard today without details, but just some of the things. And so there's been a lot over the last, 24 months here in Franklin County as far as, recusals for different reasons and lack thereof in similar or similar party situations. And so really it's, there's lots and lots of different cases where I think that could apply. And so that's really the kind of the reason for that. I know that, if you don't like a decision of a judge, you can't just go sue the court. And so my understanding is the only way that you can do that is in a personal fashion, and if the judge is found to have not been working within the scope and scale of their authority in their office. Is that somewhat accurate without the legal jargon?
I guess I'm a little bit confused as to what you're asking. If you can attack the order based on a judge's conflict of interest, I think is kind of what.
Well, I'm just saying, just because you don't like the order of a judge doesn't mean you can sue the court or sue the judge.
No, a judge is immune when they're sitting on the bench making rulings.
Right, and so really the only way that you could sue a judge is in their personal capacity if they are found to be outside of the authority or their job as a judge.
I guess if they're outside of the authority, like if a judge hits you with their car, but I mean, if the judge is sitting on the bench, I still think they would be immune if there were any questions about a judge's conduct on the bench, or I mean, outside the bench. Typically, those are handled through the the Commission on Judicial Conduct. They have basically kind of like the Bar Association, but it's specifically for judges, and that's the regulatory body that oversees that. Was it a few weeks ago when I did that presentation, I talked about that pro tem judge, right, that lied about his employment status to get free parking, and he was sanctioned by that body. So things like that. But I'm not aware, and I'm not like a legal scholar on this issue, but I'm not aware of a case that I can think of where, because of a judge's interest in a case, that the actual order was somehow modified because of that. Maybe it's possible. It's something I can look into, but not aware of that, of an order being attacked on that basis, or frankly, a judge being exposed to some sort of personal civil liability due to some conflict of interest.
Thanks for that. So I guess I'm trying to, you kind of made it so I can narrow down my question a little bit, I guess.
Yeah.
So if a judge is found to have made a ruling that is in direct conflict of interest, I'm going to make up a scenario. Let's say that a judge rules against a party where his own brother is related. Is there any relief for the victim in that case? Or is it simply based on whether or not a judge personally decides whether or not they will recuse? Is there any consequences when there's a direct conflict of interest? Not even perceived, but direct.
I think those consequences would come from the regulatory body. I'd have to look into it more. I'm not aware of a mechanism, even if a judge has a conflict, that an order could be undone.
Okay.
Potentially there is, and I just haven't seen that case because I think that's exceptionally rare. I think the judges do take recusal seriously, but it's ultimately the judge's decision. And you see that at every level of the bench, not just locally. I mean, in the national news, you see it with the Supreme Court, right? People questioning whether Supreme Court justices have conflicts of interest, and it ultimately always boils down to the judge's judgment call as to whether they believe that conflict should preclude them from rendering an impartial decision. So sorry, I don't have a better answer. I've never really researched that issue in great detail.
I appreciate that answer. We've had a number of times where that we've had similar parties where there was a recusal on one situation and not on another with the same parties, same bench, and so that was the reason for my question. So that's actually very helpful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And Mr. Chairman, that's my report.
Thank you. Commissioner Didier.
Yes, after hearing that last dialogue there between our legal and Commissioner Baumann, this is why elections are important, and we need to know their previous history. Judges, what party affiliation, what's their background. We need to do more research. We have to be an active citizenry when we elect people. So I too got phone calls and very angry people about the city of Pasco and this sales tax that they just passed. And our sales tax for the mental health facility is 0.01, and that equates to $3.5 million a year from Franklin County. This sales tax is 0.1. That's 10 times the amount. That's $35 million a year.
It's not. It's the same. It'd be the
It's
same.
0.01?
0.01.
Because it was written up as 0.1 in
It's
the article that I seen.
it's the same as our mental health
It's
collection.
0.01?
Yeah.
Okay,
So the
well,
collection in
That's good news, because I was looking at it as 0.1 and I'm going, Lord. But anyway, even that, we have got to quit taxing our citizenry. There is no disposable income for a lot of people out there right now. They're scrapping, trying to put food on the table for their families. We've got to quit taxing people. And I just sort of went off the top of my head here. We got this aquatic center. We have this tax. We have the schools that just passed. City of Pasco residents have got to start going to the meetings and letting their voices be heard. Also got calls on the assessor and what's going on with our assessor's office. And I've got a very, very smart young man that wants to meet with me and show me the discrepancy within our county, and I'm going to meet with him. This morning, we were fortunate enough that I went to a soccer game last Saturday, watching my granddaughter, who's only 4, and her activity in the soccer game was suspect. She was out playing with her hands, and the ball came right between her feet, and she stuck out her lip and looked at the ball. All the other kids are kicking around, but it's 4 to 6 year old, so she's on the tail of the beginning of it. She'll get better as the time goes on. But I saw Mike McDonald there from 610 Radio, and he says, "Hey, would you mind coming on the radio?" And I said, "Absolutely." So this morning at 8:15, excuse me, Mr. Danzel and I went on there, and he wanted to talk about the separation of the juvenile justice. So we were able to give him Franklin County side. And we're going to probably continue to do this every week at 8:15. So there will be a 7-minute segment that we'll be able to give our side of the story. So I appreciated that. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you. So this last week had a meeting with TriDec. Also had a virtual meeting with WASAC. Also attended the Pasco Police Business Watch District 2 meeting. And then, of course, had my agenda meetings with Mr. Danzel. Also took a tour of the Columbia Valley Center for Recovery. And while I was there, they gave us each a token of their appreciation for our support and continuing support of the Recovery Center. Just to bring a few facts to the forefront. The Recovery Center, once they're open, they got delayed because of the wrong address on their application for permitting. So that's delayed them 3 weeks, I don't know. Pretty technical, minor technical issue, but I guess that's government, but disappointing that it's been delayed. So the Columbia Valley Center for Recovery has a 24/7 open door, turn away, no one policy. You can walk in, you can drop off. All first responders can drop off, period. Doesn't matter where they're from, doesn't matter if there's a comprehensive contract in place or not. They turn no one away. The comprehensive contract has no bearing on anyone dropping off at the Recovery Center. So anything you've read out there that's contrary to that is simply not true. The comprehensive contract with Franklin County would be only for the non-insured Franklin County residents. And comprehensive told me that 85 to 90% of the people that walk into or are dropped off at the Recovery Center will be covered by Medicaid or Medicare. So that comprehensive contract is basically only for the non-insured Franklin County residents. And from their past experience with other counties that they service, Yakima, Walla Walla, they claim that 85 to 90% of those people will be covered by some form of insurance. I talked with Benton County. They told me that their contract is approximately $800,000 per year for that comprehensive contract. And with Franklin County being 30% of their population, that would basically put our contract, if we would negotiate the same terms as them, at around $300,000. So again, there's a lot of information out there that is being spread on social media that just simply is not valid. The claims that we have 50 million or 27 million or 27.5 million that we're holding back is simply not true and non-factual. Last week, or was it the week before last, we handed out the P&L statement or the budget for the point mental health sales tax we've collected, and it's approximately just a little over 10 million, which 6 million of it we have spent to the Recovery Center. So again, if you have any questions on comprehensive or the Recovery Center, just give us a call, because there is a lot of false information being spread out there on it. And they thanked us for our contributions and our support of the Recovery Center. And then I just want to comment also on Mr. Didier and Mr. Bauman's comments on the tax that was passed by the city of Pasco. It's simply a time that we take and reevaluate where our tax monies are going. We spend 0.1% on mental health, which Mr. Didier said is approximately around $3 million a year that we collect. We spend we collect, I should say, because obviously they're not spending all their money, but we collect 6 times more on transit than we do on mental health. And it's time that people have a voice and come forward and say, hey, we want our money spent here, not there. It's been years since it was put into place, and with $90 million in reserves, as they claimed when they were here last week, the city of Pasco obviously is struggling with their roads infrastructure, and here they sit just flush with money. So it's time. It's time to reassess where your money is being spent, because it's ridiculous, in my opinion. So anyways, that.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So, Council Briggs, I asked you last week if we could, or if the citizens could, get initiative on the ballot to vote on this tax for Ben Franklin Transit. Were you able to look into that?
I've looked into that before. It's been a while, but yes, there is a process for that. It would require an affirmative vote by everyone who's in that benefiting district, so both sides of the river, I believe.
Yeah, which is the board of directors for Ben Franklin Transit.
Right. Yeah. So there's multiple ways to do it, but if you're talking about a vote of the people, that would be done through sort of like an initiative type process, like a referendum,
Right.
where they gather votes and then they put it on the
Signatures.
ballot.
Yeah.
The board could vote to dissolve itself. I don't know why they would do that, but they can. And then I believe there might be another way. I'd have to look at the statute again, where the municipalities work to do it. But I believe those first two are sort of the main ways you would do it. Either a vote, because the people are the ones who establish it and voted in favor of it. I think they can vote to unwind it. But again, that would take not just a Franklin County vote. It would take the voters of both sides, at least within that benefiting area, I believe, is how that works. But I'd have to double check that. It's been a few months.
Are you talking about the board of directors or the people? Because the board of directors, I have worked since I've become a commissioner
Yeah.
for this, to put this back on the ballot and let the people have the voice. They won't do it. So the people of Franklin County are going to have to rise up and demand it be on the ballot. Can the people of Franklin County do that?
Well, yes and no. I mean, so again, I think there's a process where you gather signatures, kind of like a referendum or like an initiative type process. But the people would have to be the people in the entire benefiting district.
So both Benton and Franklin and all
Right.
the surrounding areas that they service,
Right.
Prosser, West Richland.
Again, we need to double check that, but that's kind of the rough sense of what it is it would have to be both sides voting on it.
So we'd have to gather signatures in Benton County too.
I'm not saying that. I think you could probably get the requisite number of signatures in Franklin County, but the voters of the entire area would have to,
Vote.
yeah.
Yeah, it's an injustice because this was voted on so long ago and it needs to be readdressed. The people need to have the configuration, and everything has changed in the whole area since this was voted on the first time. The people need a say again. And if they vote it through, I'm fine with that, but let them have a say.
Mr. Commissioner,
Yes.
I've looked into it quite a bit, and my understanding is that there is 2 basic ways that it could be adjusted. It could be done with the Board of Directors of Ben Franklin Transit, or it can also be done with the people. The process with the people would have to be a percentage of the voters that voted in the last election of the public transportation benefit area. And I don't know what those numbers are. They would obviously adjust each time, with each election, it would adjust a little bit, but that is my understanding. And as you said, Mr. Didier, the board has been reticent to put that on the ballot, and so it appears that the process would be is an effort by a voting, a voter in the public transportation benefit area. Is that pretty accurate?
And I wrote something up, like, it's probably almost been a year that I could pull and look at it, but it's been a while, but that sounds accurate, what Commissioner Bauman is stating.
As I'm watching the buses in Franklin County here in Pasco, there seems to be a lot of kids from schools that are riding the buses now. The buses still are not that full, but there are riders, and I've been watching them disembark, and there are young people that are in school. Pasco's got a problem with the roadways. I think one of the ways to address that is get these heavy buses that are just beating their pavement and burning diesel and not packing anybody around, and let those kids get transported by the school district, which has money for buses. And if they can't get up on time, then they need to walk to school. Might help their health a little bit.
Well, in simplest terms, it needs to be addressed, because if we're spending a majority of our money on that, and there are other needs in the county that need to be addressed, instead of raising taxes, we should be redistributing what we're already collecting and put it to good use. With the amount of money that they spend over there, I think you could probably give everybody Uber credits. You could buy them a car, yeah. But even with Uber credits, I still think each individual, with the amount of money that's being contributed to the transit, would have more Uber credits than they could probably spend. And at that point, I think, put a program together and donate them to the people that need them. So, and it would be a much better service. So anyways, that is the end of my report, and so we will move on to correspondence. Mr. Danzel.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Commissioner. There's a bunch of late arriving correspondence. I'm going to get to that. The first piece that I have would be outgoing in the form of a press release. Probably breaking some news here. But this is in regards to the ongoing campaign that, everybody will remember regarding why hasn't Franklin County signed an agreement with Comprehensive? It's got to be done. If they don't do it, there's been news stories. I understand that even as late as yesterday, Franklin County was being talked about on the other side of the river. And only to realize, and this is kind of unbelievable to me, that Benton County itself does not have an agreement with Comprehensive. So for all the folks that had all the vigor and enthusiasm to come to our meeting and say all the things they said, which I think was very, well within the scope here, I would just ask that, gosh, maybe go ask Benton County why they themselves don't have an agreement with Comprehensive and why we would need to be first. So that would be one. Here is the potential press release, if you want to give that a look. But again, for the people that place a high premium on accuracy here, I just think that this goes along with what what all three of you gentlemen are talking about, which is that we just got to get information out there and in my opinion, stay the course, because I think that what this shows and what this kind of indicates is that we're doing the right thing. We're doing our due diligence. We're making sure that all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. We also have a letter from the Benton County Board of Commissioners, and they are terminating multiple agreements with us. One is for juvenile services, and the other is for Superior Court. I have a letter from, Ben Franklin Public Health and Janae Parent asking if we would like to have those folks on our agenda. I'll take that and pass it down. And then we've got a a letter from Mayor Charles Grimm, and I'll take that and pass it down. And it talks to some of the same issues that the others talk to. In your official correspondence, the ones that we had available and ready to go prior to the late arriving ones this morning or late last night, you have a piece of correspondence from Chief Civil, how did I say that wrong? Chief Civil Deputy, I did 3 or 4 wrong there. Deputy Prosecuting Attorney, there I got it out, Jeff Briggs, regarding the refilling of a Legal Secretary 3 position, which they need. I mean, there's no other way to say it. They need that position. So anyway, that is the correspondence for today. And I would ask if we could make add this to the agenda and make a motion and approve filling the secretary position if that's possible. That's the correspondence that I have, gentlemen. Oh, and with that, are you gentlemen, and maybe we could, I don't know if consensus would work, but are you gentlemen okay with me sending out the press release clarifying the Columbia Center for Recovery?
I am.
Yes.
Affirmative, is that? Just so we're completely, so nobody can question it, would you mind doing that in the form of a motion?
Sure.
Yeah. So I move to approve the press release.
So, Mr. Chairman, do we need to amend the agenda, Mr. Briggs?
Yes, yes, to be very thorough, you should amend the agenda, put it on, and then vote on it.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we would amend our agenda to add 2 potential action items.
I second.
We have a motion and a second for 2 agenda items. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, I move that this board approve the request made by our Chief Civil Deputy Prosecuting Attorney, Mr. Briggs, for them to fill the position that they have requested in writing.
I second.
We have a motion and a second on the filling of the position. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we authorize our county administrator to release a press release on our behalf that we have in front of us.
I second.
Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, gentlemen. Sorry for the extra steps there.
Public comment. Is there anyone in the room today for public comment?
Wanda Hatch, Franklin County. The second thing actually that I was going to redress was the transit situation. And I was speaking to one of the city councilmen last night to understand why they raised that sales tax. Evidently, they only had $1 million in their roads transportation budget, and they need $8 million a year or something like that. I don't know. Crazy. But again, the amount that the transit takes, and I'm not sure how I'm paying that tax too, because I live out in the county and the transit buses don't come out there. Do we pay that in the county too? I don't know if you,
It's sales
shouldn't.
tax.
What?
It's sales tax. So if you come in and buy something, yes, you're paying.
So like I buy things online and I know that's taxed and I'm still paying the full tax out on the county. I don't understand how, well, I'm sitting in my house. So I don't know. There's something kind of sketchy about that, because I know it used to be that when you lived in the county, you paid a less sales tax. And when my kids played sports in the city, we had to pay extra because we lived in the county. So I'm not sure how I'm paying for the transit when I'm sitting at my house. But the other thing is on the rehab center, I was watching an interview with Spencer Pratt, who said the NGOs are busing all the homeless out of California to Seattle. That means that anyone in this state is open to come and wait in line for the rehab center. And I don't know what we're going to do, because if that's true, and if that is what ends up happening, I spent a month and a half with my mother-in-law at Harborview, and the homeless around that hospital, it was horrible. And the smell of marijuana in the air was just sickening. So I'm just very concerned for our little community. I hope that we're prepared. And then also, I understand that that bill that I was talking about, the executive order by Bob Ferguson, it actually was codified in the House and the Senate, and I believe every Senate Republican voted for it. This gives the tribes, and this actually takes effect on June 11th, so that's coming up, where they have some authority over all the state agencies. So I don't know. Anyhow, just some concerning things for my county. Thank you.
Marcy Torres, Franklin County. So this data that I was able to help while he was in court and was cleared of all the, allegations he was being accused, sent me this message, and I thought it would be important for me to share it with you guys. He said, I seriously think God is making me an advocate. In a sense of all this, and with me getting the proper help, I feel so thankful that you were there. So we need to do something. We're discussing taxes. Roads are important. I'd like to believe that our children are even more important. And yes, conflicts of interest have been a huge issue here. And because I have filed complaints against a lot of the judges sitting on your benches right now, they're disclosing them now. But they haven't been doing that for many, many years. There's judges that you have sitting on the bench that are attached to businesses, to LLCs, where they're getting money while sitting on the bench, and knowing that they have conflicts of interest, they disregard them. So we have a huge problem with integrity in Franklin County. And I want those judges to know, and Benton County too, that I am coming to expose all of it. Another thing I'd like to see happen is I have requested public records for a lot of these people that are sitting on the bench. It's been since March since I requested those, and they still haven't been submitted to me. That's a long time. And there should be no reason why it's taking that long for them to submit them. Another thing is, with this whole tax situation, I find it really hard to believe that we have people that we are paying to budget for things that are going to be necessary, like the roads. And they're not doing their job. We have an aquatic center that wasn't necessary. The roads work is necessary. Why didn't we plan accordingly for that? Instead, you guys, we're going and putting our taxpayers into situations where we're already all struggling financially. So why do we continue to keep these people employed if they're not doing their job? I would like to see some people starting to be held accountable. If I was taking payments to do gutter work for people and wasn't doing my job, I'd be sitting in jail right now. Or fired, at the very least. But I think we need to start sending a message and holding them accountable. And if they're not doing their job, they don't belong. They can go look for something else. Thank you.
Michelle Andrews, once again. Our Constitution says we're only supposed to consist of 5 judges on the Supreme Court. Why in the world do we have 9? Because we don't stand on our constitutional grounds. Does a commission have jurisdiction over people? And the sheriff's suits, and I've reviewed all those documents in court, Mark Lamb is arguing, and Noah Purcell, of all people, went up to Pend Oreille County because Mark Lamb is arguing about the oath that they're supposed to swear to commit when they submit things to the Criminal Justice Commission. There is no commission has the constitutional right to oversee a sheriff. Benton Franklin Transit is a commission. Redressing grievances is a proper path and to produce a resolution. I'm not even sure we can't do a referendum because it's too late. You have to do that right after. Initiatives, okay, you have to gather signatures. Why can't people put together a redress of grievances in a petition form and go and to Benton Franklin Transit? Why can't we do that? That is what they did in our country. They redressed grievances. They didn't have bureaucracies changing our laws, unelected people changing our laws. So with that, and I would ask that you do a workshop and see if a resolution to redress grievances with the Benton Franklin Transit, with the people that have the right to redress grievances with their governmental entities, is something that'll work. Please do that. It's a lot less expensive. You only go to court if you're going to lose your life, your liberty, or your property. And I said a couple weeks ago, it is absurd to think that people only have a public comment or a comment during legislation and never have the right to hold their government accountable or to restore and repair the Constitution that's been violated. I know I'm right, and I really want to see the fight that I see in this room. Stand up and call the other people that are part of the contract. If I promise to pay you $200 for a car, and then I said, well, I'm 65 years old, and I have red hair, I'm a minority, and I can only afford $100 now. You come take the car, because that's what contract law does. Case law does not. We have a 4,007-page annotated Constitution that has been killed by precedents. But we still have the right to redress grievances. You've been soaked in a system that does not acknowledge the Constitution, and I have my hat off to Steve, who has really tried hard to understand the steering committees and all the things that you've done on the WASAC. But the Constitution is where we need to be, and it's quicker.
Anyone else in the room for public comment?
I'm Melissa Good. I'm a member of this community. As I speak further, I would like for all of you to just ask yourself, who is protecting our children internally in our schools? I had a meeting with 4 different administrators for the school district. It was the superintendent at the time, not the current one. I'll clarify that. The school board president, the HR manager, and the school attorney. I showed them the footage. I showed them the photos of everything that I've spoke about and shown you a small amount of today. They all just looked at me like I was nuts, kept their mouths shut. I finally pulled up some of the footage of what this teacher was viewing, and I put it in their faces. The female superintendent, the second she saw it, went embarrassed, humiliated, couldn't look at it. But this is acceptable, right? Before that meeting, just before it, I spoke with the school attorney at the time. The dishonorable Bronson Brown. That's a bold claim, and I'm going to back it up. I looked at him eye to eye, parent to parent, and I said, this is not a good guy. You know what he's looking at? These things? Minors overtly sexualizing themselves, young minors being sexualized without their consent, that footage as well. Detail shots. He looked at me and he said, We can't know he's actually viewing these things just because he's subscribed to them. Is that going to be the new defense in our court systems when someone gets kiddie porn found on their computers? Are we headed that way? Are we? Because evidently that's an adequate defense for a teacher in our public school system to be viewing these things. We can't assume they view it. Are you kidding me? What in the world is going on? So, this individual is still employed. I don't understand this. How is this possible? Who is protecting our children? Think about this for a moment. Let's back up. The grooming transpires. The grooming is reported. There is a theoretical investigation. It's all denied on all levels, court and school. Where is the protection for our children?
Anyone else for public comment?
Andy Revis, Franklin County. I'll continue. Reading what I was reading, it says you cannot build an industry around child removal and then pretend surprise when bad actors infiltrate it. The answer is not more bureaucracy. The answer is accountability. I'm going to read that again. The answer is accountability. There's no accountability for, Council Briggs was just talking, you can't go back on these judges. What they say, and Mr. Didier, you said we need to elect these judges. We need to pay attention. But what about the commissioners that are appointed that make these decisions for families? And accountability, transparency, constitutional protections, timely hearings, and keeping families together whenever safely possible. Because once a child enters a system where nobody is truly accountable, that child becomes vulnerable to far more than what the government claimed it was rescuing them from. And there's many things. The timely hearings. A commissioner or a judge makes a ruling that you can't see your children, you can't have visits, or you can have maybe 1 hour a week. You don't get another hearing for 2 to 3 months to change it. There's no appeal process in family court. And so you get an order handed down that you can't see your children, and you have to wait 3 months. What happens to those children in those 3 months? They get indoctrinated. They get alienated from their parents. My son, it was written in the report that he told the social worker he was glad they were taking him to get a sandwich. His lunch was sitting on the table at home that they took him away from, and they used that against us, that he was glad they were taking him to get a sandwich. That's parental alienation. It happens all the time, and that's what they're doing while they're waiting on the next court hearing. I talked to an attorney last week who is working, she works mostly on, she was involved in foster parents that were denied access to being foster parents because of their religion or their lack of pronouns in their bios. But she said CPS gets it wrong 100% of the time. There was a little boy just found buried in his parents' yard in a relative's yard over on the west side because they put him back with the drug addict parents instead of protecting that child. She said 100% of the time they get it wrong. The children that need protection, they give back to the drug addicts, like Marcy was saying earlier last week. And the rebellious teenagers, well, they rescue them from their mean parents. 100% of the time they get it wrong, she said.
Mr. Revis, if you'd be willing to leave that quote that you were reading, I'd appreciate reading that again. Thank you.
Anyone else in the room for public comment? Is there anyone on the phone?
Is there a need for executive session today?
I believe we need a closed section on an executive. How long? 20 minutes.
Closed, you can adjourn, Rocky.
I have a question for Mr. Briggs. A point that was brought up on sales tax. It used to be like farm implement dealerships and whatnot would be located outside of city limits because they had a smaller sales tax. But the city has grown now, so I think it's pretty much encompassed most of them. But when you buy something online and you are charged the sales tax, is it by zip code? Or is it by city limits? I mean, the sales tax online is so new.
Yeah.
I have
Gosh,
to
I
ask
don't-
the question,
yeah.
is it by
And I don't know, I mean, it's great, I think, now that local governments are even getting any sales tax, because I believe when Amazon and companies like that started up, those taxes weren't being remitted to the local governments, so
That is correct, yeah.
That's the good news. In terms of this question about whether you should be taxed or not if you're living outside a transportation benefit area, my understanding is you should not. It's just transactions that occur within that benefit area. But again, I'm not a tax attorney. I'm just looking at the RCW right now during the meeting. So I wouldn't say it's a definitive analysis, but it does appear that only transactions within that benefit area would be subject to that tax. So if someone's being subjected to that tax that's outside the benefit area, I don't know why that would be the case.
Yeah.
But perhaps I'm just mistaken on it.
Well, I mean, what you're saying sounds logical and accurate. It makes me wonder who's calculating the sales tax, because you're getting charged for it. But I guess my question would be, are you being charged by zip code or within city limits? Because there's a different tax rate.
Well, and then when you buy something I'm just using Amazon as an example. You buy something on Amazon, it says taxes anticipated to be collected, but then when you click the buy button, they collect it. So, I mean, was it really anticipated? Where does that money go?
Right.
I mean, I don't get, they don't mail me a few pennies back and say, we miscalculated your taxes, sir, here's your money back. So,
Right.
I mean, it seems like it's less than anticipated. It's the real deal when they, a second later, charge it to your bank, so.
Yeah.
For transparency reasons, can the purchaser ask for that documentation of where those taxes go? Are they entitled to that?
That I don't know the answer to. I imagine there's a paper trail, and always under the Public Records Act, you can sort of put that story together through public documents, but in terms of having someone break that down for you, I doubt it.
Okay.
And as far as budgeting for, like, I heard the example of the aquatic center, I believe those taxes are collected specifically for that purpose. It's not a matter of redistributing them to a different part of the budget. So at least that's my understanding. So we'll go into a close, we have a closed session, so is there any other business for the good of the county? Hearing, seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.